message on 13th of this month.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even gonna bring this up
Oh, I wouldn't.
since he didn't run. And he's the only one that's really pressuring doing something with this. It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it-
So I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions and that'll be it. I'm not gonna bring this
Okay.
up at all.
All right, okay. What do you got? Kurt, I did not hear from Kurt. Anybody hear from Kurt?
I did not.
How about you?
Not for a few days. You didn't say anything about it.
I got 8:30, fire it up. And it looks like we got a light on here now too, so.
We are live.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 22nd Board of Commissioner meeting. Please rise, we have Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome everybody to the Board of Commissioners meeting for March 22nd. We are trying something new this morning. We have an owl up here on the desk. If everybody has noticed, it is live. We are also doing our normal Zoom meeting, so we will get through this. Roll call, please.
Rhodes.
Present.
Holgren.
Present.
Bosworth.
Present.
Sykes.
Present.
Obermeyer.
Present. Open meetings law is posted on the south side of our chambers, on the wall outside of our chambers, and also on our website. Proof of publication was on our website and also on the York News Times March 17th. We need to review and approve the minutes of the March 8th, 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting. Should have had those all sent out.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Jack. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rhodes.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Bosworth.
Yes.
Holgren.
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, we need to adopt today's agenda unless there's a reason to amend the agenda for this morning.
Mr. Chairman,
Jack?
I
Or Jack?
would like
Bill?
to offer an amendment to the agenda. I think last meeting we had discussed that we would come back and discuss the schedule for the highway department again, as far as the salaries and stuff. And I didn't see it on there. I would like to bring it back on there if we could,
Okay, so you want to put it on there as,
to discuss and act.
you just discuss, or not just discuss, but discuss and act?
Correct.
I have a problem with that. I don't think that is an emergency item. The point of adding things to the agenda, we're supposed to have the agenda finalized 24 hours before we meet so the public has an opportunity to review that agenda. If it's an emergency item, then you can amend the agenda to add something. I don't think this fits the qualifications as an emergency item.
It's probably not an emergency, but it does say if you have a reason to amend it. And I thought we had talked about that we would talk about it this time. If you want to do it to discuss, that's fine with me without acting, but I really think we need to put it on there.
Well, why don't we discuss it in committee reports then? I do have some more information that we can discuss and that will be public. And if we're not, prepared to act, then at that point, which we wouldn't, we can always do it. And I do have some more information that I pulled up regarding some of that discussion also. Okay, we will leave, I still need a motion to adopt agenda.
I would move we adopt the agenda for the York County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Holgren.
Yes.
Rhodes.
Yes.
Bosworth.
No.
Sykes.
No.
And Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, officials forum this morning.
Paul Verke, York County Sheriff. I just wanted to touch base with the board that Sheriff Vance and I did go into Lincoln last Monday. I had a meeting at the Capitol with Senator Coulterman about LB 921 in regards to the letter. And he did advise that he thought the York County Board and the Seward County Board should submit a letter to him, and he's going to oppose LB 921. So I just wanted to update you on that. So that's all I've got then.
That's all you got?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Paul. Any other officials? Harv?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a quick update, we're crack sealing is what we are doing for the most part right now. We have done Road 4 from, no, we have not. We've done Road S from 6 to the interstate. We have done Road 4 from McCool west to Lushton. We have one lane done there. Well, almost, we're still on our way to Lushton, and then we still have to come back to Highway 81. And then after that, we will try to do the new cracks going east on 80, on Road 4 also. Depending on how the crack filling material holds out, how the weather works out to how we go along. Otherwise, we have been hauling gravel out onto the roads this week is what we was doing in last week, so. Yeah. And today, we probably aren't hauling gravel out onto the roads. So, anyway, but that's kind of where we're at this point in time, so.
Any questions of Art while he's sitting here?
The roads seem to be in pretty good shape this morning, I was coming in, so.
We talked this morning out at the road, and we had talked about the 5 days and 4 days. Harley, they put together a letter out there that I think Daniel and I got to read it this morning, just for information wise, get a chance to go through it, and then we'll probably discuss that in committee also.
Was there two?
Yes.
Two pieces, okay.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
believe you got on 2 pieces. If you don't,
Okay.
I have extras.
Anyhow, if you don't have any other questions at this time, I'll sit back and listen.
Thanks, Harv.
Very good, thank you.
Any other officials? Nick, you're here for agenda?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to public forum this morning. Anybody would like to come from the public and speak to something that is not on the agenda, they can do so for a couple minutes now at this time, if they would like to. Nobody's stepping forward. The owl is scaring everybody off. Did you have something, sir?
I did.
If you could name and address for the record, and come up to the,
Michael Menninger from Henderson. Kind of
I'm sorry, what was your name,
Michael
sir?
Menninger from
Speak into
Henderson.
the mic.
I'm Michael
Okay.
Menninger from Henderson.
Okay, thank you.
I was kind of wondering what they were gonna do about the blacksmith shop straight north of town of Henderson. It's kind of a mess out there. Fixmove's the one that owns it. He's kind of left a mess out there. It's kind of nice, so Bill knows about it out there. Kind of wondered what they were gonna do about that out there.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I think I can answer that. Since the city of Henderson annexed the industrial park area,
Okay,
they do have a 1 mile jurisdiction
okay,
over the zoning,
okay.
and that's where the city of Henderson would come into play, not the county. So it-
Well, I was told the opposite, so that's why I'm here.
Well, I was there 26 years, and I know what the law reads for second-class cities. And they do have 1 mile jurisdiction, which that would incorporate. So I think it would be up to them to address the issue.
Okay,
okay,
thanks.
thank you. Anybody else from the public who would like to speak this morning? Name and address, please.
Daryl Hayek, and I'm from Friend, Nebraska,
How do you spell your last name?
Hayek.
Thank you.
And I know that there's a bunch of people talking about the solar farm by McCool. I have worked with EDF for 2.5, 3 years. Cannot get them to follow the contract. They have lied. They have trespassed on ground they didn't even have contracts with. We're still working on 2020 crop damage, 2021 crop damage. So, yeah. And if you haven't had a renewable energy attorney do the contract, the local attorneys are not going to know this stuff. I've done presentations all over the state, and I always go this way. If you found out you had brain cancer, would you go to an oncologist or a proctologist? They're both doctors, but they have their place. So, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Daryl. Anybody else from the public? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on the agenda. We do have a general assistance case that will take place later in the meeting. I believe there's some court in process right now, so or did she get the information to us?
I have
You
not
had
received
not seen
any.
it, okay, all right. So, review and approve payroll and vendor claims this morning.
Mr.
Everybody had a
Chairman,
chance? Go ahead.
do we need to hold off on vendor claims for the general assistance, or no? Not today, okay, very good.
Everybody had an opportunity to look through them?
It appears the court-appointed counsel's getting their billings done
Yes.
prudently.
And you see there's dates associated
Yeah,
with them,
that's
so
nice.
that's
Appreciate
different.
that.
It's like the dentists are doing well with our prisoners.
Well, the same thing with our detention, our outside detention.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Jack?
When it comes to medical or dental or the things that the county's responsible for, they're responsible for just anything, or is it responsible for emergency care?
I'm gonna refer that to Paul, I see sitting here. Paul, can you give an answer on that?
Yeah, usually, I mean, if it's something that they're having a problem with in jail, like a toothache or an infection, yeah, we've got to take care of that. But if it's something like, you know, they've got a cavity, we're not gonna take care of that if it's just a cavity and it's not bothering them. So we kind of monitor that, so.
How much was the charge here?
5,900.
5,900?
972 for one, was that one prisoner?
I'm not sure, I'd have to double check on that, yeah. I know we did have a lady back there that we had to take to Lincoln on a medical emergency. That was pretty expensive.
I remember that one.
Yeah,
But this was just the dental one.
yeah.
Well, I'm just curious, because a dental cap costs $1,200 one,
Yeah.
and that's $5,700 to get the whole bottom done.
The problem is, some of these guys come in and their teeth are terrible. You know.
Okay, it was just a question. I'll take your answer.
That, yeah, so.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
We can make a motion to approve payroll and vendor claims as presented.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Jack? Any other discussion? Roll call, Kelly?
Rhodes,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Bosworth,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Colmeyer.
Yes. You guys were all able to see the funding sheets where there's no funding transfers right now. Next up, we will meet with David Rich from MPPD. I had asked David to come to this meeting, I guess maybe a month ago. David spent a little time with me in my shop discussing just a little bit about solar. I thought it'd be a good idea to bring that forward. So David, if you'd just name and address for the record, and then we'll kind of turn it over. We'll let you go through your presentation. You want us to wait for questions at the end, or just
Feel free.
jump
to
in
stop me
whenever?
At any point, yeah, feel free. So, again, David Rich, I work in the Columbus General Office, Columbus, Nebraska. And I've got a PowerPoint, and I will just flip through these pretty fast. There's a lot about the Southwest Power Pool and the whole interconnection process, and it's kind of an overview of that. And then I can discuss high level where we are with an RFP to buy renewable energy. And I've also had discussions with Cass County. They've got a solar project very similar to this that they're trying to develop zoning, and also about the Norfolk Nebraska solar project that NPPD is doing. So next slide 2, a little bit overview of NPPD. 1,900 employees, 3,200 megawatts. We have power contracts with municipals, rural public power districts like Perennial, and then we lease 79 municipals like York. And the next slide is the wholesale municipals that we serve. You can see those throughout the state. The next one is the listing of all the rural public powers and cooperatives that we serve, and then the retail communities that we serve. So you can see those scattered around the entire state. We're in like 84 of the 93 counties. NPPD, we provide electricity that is reliable, affordable, and environmentally acceptable. The answers are complex though. So this is a pie chart showing our generation. You can see a large amount of our generations from coal. We have a Gerald Gentleman out by North Platte. We have a large nuclear power plant, some wind, hydro. We purchase power on the market. We have some natural gas generation, and you can see solar is very, very small part of our 0.1% right now. Then if we look at what's native load, which is all those wholesale retail communities, the mix is a lot different. We keep the carbon-free generation for our native load customers. But even then, solar only goes to 0.2%.
Dave, when you talk about that, that's right now or 2020 actual. Have you guys projected any into the future where you think that will be or where that will go?
So every 5 years, we're required to do a integrated resource plan, and that looks out what the loads are going to be and what the generation will be to serve that. And right now, there's a lot of interest in new businesses coming to the state. Some of them are data mining companies. We've got a 300 megawatt load roughly south of Lincoln that's going to be making carbon black and ammonia fertilizer, so that's a new load that we've got this RFP out. We've had interest by another plant in central Nebraska to make urea, and they want renewable energy. Another plant is looking at making chemicals out by Sutherland. And again, the big thing for industries now is to find renewable energy to provide the power. NPPD will actually supply the power because these industries need power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they want to be able to say, we built or paid for this wind farm or this solar farm, so they can get the renewable credit, so they can sell it as green products.
So do you see that scale moving from 0.2 or 0.1? I mean,
so by 2050, our board has set a goal to be 100% carbon free, but you know that's a long ways out there.
Right.
And right now, one of the challenges is that our Gerald Gentleman plant is one of the, if not the cheapest coal plant in the whole Southwest power pool. And so as we move from that to other sources, the challenge will be to keep the low rates and to keep it reliable.
gotcha.
When did your board make that decision?
It's been 2-3 months ago, I believe.
Thank you.
So this is just a map showing the solar resources. Again, in the Southwest, it's the best, in part more sun, but also a lot less humidity. So even between western Nebraska and eastern Nebraska, if you go further west, you will have better sun for photovoltaics than you do east. But the problem is, building it out west, the load is here in the east. So then you gotta have transmission to move it from western Nebraska to eastern. You also have losses incurred with that, so. Then this is, the next map is, showing the breakdown. It kind of documents a little more about the west, southwest is the best solar. Moving east is less solar, but it's still very, very good. In general, Nebraska has better solar than Florida. Even though Florida is so far south, they have so much humidity and clouds that really hurts their impact. Solar project types, utility scale, 5,000 kW or 5 megawatts. That's another way of saying it, 5 megawatts and greater. The project down by McCool, I believe, is 310 megawatts, so it's a very large project. The next one is community scale, and that's what York is installing here. Their project is less than 5 kW. And then there's net metering, which is defined as less than 25 kW. So those are the three typical sizes of solar.
How does kilowatts transfer over to, I mean, you know what I mean? What's the ratio? How many?
1,000 kilowatts equals 1 megawatt.
Okay.
So this next is a footprint of Southwest Power Pool. And you can see it goes from the border with Canada all the way down to northern Texas. Most of Texas is in ERCOT, which is a separate region by themselves. And if you remember last February, ERCOT had some significant problems with outages. Very, very cold weather in Texas and Oklahoma, a lot of problems with natural gas pumping stations. And so as a result of that problems, if you recall, Nebraska had to have a couple hours of interruption in mid-February just to make sure we kept the entire system on. Next slide is the generation interconnection overview. All generation, whether it's if NPPD wanted to add a gas plant or any type of generation that ties into the transmission system. Again, transmission is 115,000 volts and above. If you're going to tie into that transmission system, you have to apply at the Southwest Power Pool. And they do that to maintain the reliability. They want to make sure that this generation is added, that there's sufficient transmission to move that around. So maintaining safety, reliability, operation, and minimize impacts to the people who are using it. And so there's the voltage that they look at. And again, you have to submit a application, generation size, location. They look at the proximity to load again. So most of the load in Nebraska is in central eastern Nebraska. And that is easier to study, but it's very complex, and we'll be going through some slides here next. The generation interconnection process, I'm skipping everything except down what's highlighted. New generation and transmission can only be connected to the region's existing transmission grid once it has been studied and approved by SPP. So they have, in Arkansas, their head office, several engineers that review all these projects. This talks about the changing generation mix. Currently, there's 800 generators that make up that. Within North America, there's several other regions. The one to the east of us is called MISO. And then there's PJM, and there's several, and there's ones out west. But there's a lot of additions. This shows how wind has increased significantly over the years. And the next slide, this is the amount of generation that's in queue, 95,000 megawatts, 95,311. You can almost think of that 311 as about the size of that McCool project. So there's 95,000 other megawatts. And you can see that solar is by far what the new generation is working for. And one of the main reasons is that solar better matches the load patterns. So NPPD is a summer peaker. We peak primarily due to air conditioning and irrigation. And wind is the lowest at those summer months. And so solar is a better mix for if you're looking for renewable energy.
So Dave, when you're talking about in the queue, so this isn't online, this is people that are asking to be online?
Yes, these are
to hook
people.
up?
And we'll go through the ones I focused on is the one that this project that McCool's in, they entered that request in the second half of 2017. And we'll see how many other projects were entered there. So it's a multi-year process. That's how far SPP is behind in approving these projects. And so the basic process is that these developers go out and look for land near a transmission line. Okay, they want to be able to minimize their cost to tie into the existing utility. So they look for a big enough piece of land that they can put enough solar panels or enough wind turbines on. Once they get that land locked up, they'll go ahead and put in their request to get it studied. At that point, they don't have a buyer. So the majority of these 2017 projects don't have a buyer yet. They're out there trying to lock up land, trying to lock up the transmission to know what that cost is. And once they get that locked up, then they can actually submit firm prices to potential buyers. And those potential buyers could be utilities, or it could be industrial/commercial customers. Some companies like Amazon want to be green, and so they'll go out and buy into a project and essentially buy the renewable energy credits or attributes for themselves, and the electricity though goes into the market. That Amazon load may not even be in Nebraska, it could be in another state, but they're buying the renewable attributes so that they can claim that they are 80% renewable or 100% renewable.
Okay, go ahead, Kurt.
So Amazon facilities could be run 100% on coal power, technically, but they're buying these credits to make it look like they're green energy.
So they will be buying power from their most likely local utility, and depending on what that local utility's mix is, it could be 100% coal. I don't know that there's any utilities in the US that are 100% coal today.
Sure.
But, you know, they are gonna buy it from a mixture of whatever resources. And I should explain a little bit how SPP works. So SPP not only looks at transmission, but they also do the market. So these 800 generators put in like a day ahead, what is it gonna cost to run your plant? What's the price of coal? What's the price of natural gas? You know, that type of thing. And they also take into account, if the plant's not running, how long it takes to start up. They take into account how fast it can move up and down. Natural gas plants can move very fast up and down. Coal plants are much slower, much more like a locomotive train. They're very efficient, but they like to run at a, you know, flat out. And so then SPP decides which plants are going to run that next day based on the forecasted load. So NPPD also has to give them a forecast for the next day of what our load's going to be every hour. So they total up all the loads and they look at all the generation resources, and then they also have to take into account the transmission constraints, because sometimes the cheapest plant, let's say, is Gentleman Coal Plant, and potentially wind and solar are cheaper than coal because they have no fuel cost. And so they try to balance all that for reliability, and they just have a schedule that says each hour this is how much this plant's going to run. That's called the day ahead schedule. Then there's also the real-time schedule where they have to balance every 5 minutes because loads don't go as forecasted. Wind farms, solar don't produce exactly. And so they balance and send out signals in the real-time market, say you've got to raise your generation because we need to balance this on a real-time basis.
Got all that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
That's me in 5 minutes.
Okay. So again, there's a lot of generation in the queue, and then there's the steps that they go through for this study process.
Do we need to recess, guys, or?
Just need a short break.
Okay. Can you hold on just a
Yep,
just a second? You got any other questions that you're thinking of?
Not at the moment. I can't get this to download, so.
Did you look through your email?
Yeah,
That's what's getting it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said that the queue was behind, or they were behind. Have they ever been, say, caught up where we get a project through in a year or two, or is it always we're 5 years into this application now that?
So what's happened is the developers go ahead and put in for a request, and they maybe put in for multiple projects, and they don't know which one is gonna have the lowest cost transmission until the study's done. So there's phases of this. So you start with a whole bunch of projects for 21, and then you send out the results and say, your transmission is gonna be $500,000, your transmission is gonna be 20 million, your transmission is gonna be 5. And so what happens is some of those, then you have to put in a deposit to stay for the next round of like 10% of what your anticipated or projection transmission upgrades are. So then some projects drop out. Okay, when these projects drop out because it's, quote, too expensive for them, then they have to restudy it again because now they have fewer in there. And so that iterative process is what creates the problem. And so they've tried to look at that, but there's so many requests in the queue you know, that 94,000, it just has caused this bottleneck.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so this page 16, this kind of talks about the different phases of that, and I kind of tried to simplify that, but you can see that there's the phase 1 studies, and there's some financial security, then there's some more studies, more financial security, and then finally you get into the facility study, which really is the step that finalizes what the cost is, and then there's the generation interconnection agreement. And so not until you have that generation interconnection agreement do you know what your final costs are, and everybody's signed off. So in that box, Southwest Power Pool signs the agreement, the utility that has the transmission would sign the agreement, and the developer would sign the agreement. And then that has the cost for the developer, what they have to pay. It has a schedule for when the utility has to have the facilities completed. So that's the bottom line of where that is.
Randy?
At this time, it's really just a presentation. It's not, just so the whole public knows, it's not, like say, a public agenda or a public meeting. So it's really just, it's us and up. Now, I'm sure that anybody that has any questions, Mr. Rich would be more than happy to answer those that when we're done and part of this, but to keep it just as us, so everybody understands.
Okay, and so the highlighted is, you know, there's intermittent resources like wind and solar, and so other generation resources are needed. Anything is called dispatchable within the utility. A dispatch means that you can schedule it up or down based on the fuel availability, and coal and natural gas are readily available. Wind and solar, you can only dispatch down. You can't make more wind or more solar, and so it's only dispatchable down. This next one, this is a report that just came out last week. So this is the 2017, and then the 002 is for those that were submitted the second half of 2017, and then phase 2 of the study. And then this just shows that overview where they're at. They did the power flow and stability analysis and progress. And then this talks about phase 1, phase 2, again, more detail. I'm not planning to get into that detail. And this just shows, again, more of the study process that they go into. And I'm going to skip forward to page 22, NYSA scope of activities. They're looking for facility and network upgrades. And so you can, the developer that puts in can put it in as energy only, or they can put it in as a network resource. Energy only basically says we're putting the energy into the market, but we're not guaranteeing delivering it to anybody. If NPPD was purchasing a project, we would want to have network. We want to be able to deliver that resource to NPPD. So that's a high level of what those two are. This shows a breakdown. The SPP region shows a breakdown of the different areas that they study. You can see that Nebraska is in, looks like a couple of them, the green Nebraska, and then there's the central Nebraska. So even though they look at a region, they do interface. It's all, wires are all tied together. So essentially everything from the Rocky Mountains east, except for that part of Texas, is all one big grid. We're all tied together. We're all synced exactly together. Texas is by itself, and then everything west of the Rockies is another grid. And so they look at these, how they interface with each other. This shows the amount of capacity that's in each of those districts. And you can see the central by far has the most. Nebraska has relatively small compared to that. And then we go through pages 25, 26, 27, 28. And so these are all projects. This is public information. It basically tells you that they were a 2017 request, then it's a number. The study, these are all 002 studies, which group they're in, whether they're wind or solar. There may be a combination battery storage with solar, the name of where it's being tied into, the state that it's in, who the utility is that serves that, the megawatts, and whether it's an energy resource or a network resource, and they're all in the DICES stage. So you can flip through those. The one that I wanted to point out was the one on page 28. There's highlighted Nebraska. And so that is the McCool 345 project. When this was put in, it was listed as hybrid, which to me means solar battery storage. Again, that's how it was submitted in 2017. They may not be going forward with the battery project now, but that's how it was submitted. It was being tied to NPPD transmission, 310 megawatts as an energy resource. And so then there's page 29 is another page of those. So you can see there are a lot of projects in this 2017 study, some of which are in Nebraska, some of which are tied to NPPD, but it's just kind of an overview of all those projects. So any questions on this presentation?
So when you look at all those, in all the years that you've had, the probability of all those passing, I mean, you got 4 sheets, all those passing through the queue and ending up being projects, do they usually get 100% that goes through, or?
You might be better off buying a Powerball ticket.
Okay.
They're not all going to go through.
They're just it.
No way, there's no way. And there's multiple, they put in multiple requests, as I said, and those that have the least cost to install, transmission, or they can find a buyer, they have to sort through, but it's, yeah, they're gonna be filtered way down. How many of them get built? It all depends on demand, how, where things go with renewables, who the next president is, there's a lot of things that take into play. We're seeing the fertilizer market, all of a sudden it's taken off. So we got one company that's looking at ammonia, another one at urea. Can they make hydrogen cheap enough to make fertilizer here in Nebraska as compared to how it's been made in the past?
Okay. So when you have this company that's applied to be in this queue, and they do get to the point where your one slide showed everybody had to sign, they have to pay to connect. The company has to pay to connect to NPPD, so the NPPD ratepayers aren't paying that
The
cost.
developer pays the cost to interconnect. Now, one exception to that would be is if there is some improvement in reliability that's gained as a result of that new line, potentially that's what's being studied. Is it just generation only, or is there some reliability improvement? And if there's some reliability improvement to SPP, then some of that cost could be shared. So I'm not going to say that in all cases the developer has to pay for that.
Okay. I know that when David and I spent that hour and a half, I think it was, together, I mean, there was a lot of information that came down, and I just thought that some of this would be a good idea as we're getting into, next month, we're thinking about getting going on our zoning and trying to get all that taken care of. Just to have some brief overview of what the project takes and what is all about getting a solar project up and running, and how many are out there, and just different things. So if anybody has any more questions of the board for Dave, now's the time. Or I guess he did put his email address down there too, for that to happen.
If you
Anybody?
like, I could give a little bit of update on where we are on our RFP process.
Go ahead.
So we have a customer, Monolith, and back in January of 2021, there was a press release with the governor and the owner, or the president of Monolith, and then our CEO, and then Norris Public Power General Manager, and they announced the plan to build this large plant about 20 miles south of Lincoln near our Sheldon Power Plant. And on their behalf, we issued an RFP, and the results were back in June, and we had a lot of proposals both within Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Texas for proposals. We were accepting them at that point for everybody. And so we did a short list, and initially we were going to have negotiations begin in November. It got postponed to January. and now it's postponed longer than that, in part because there was a potential in the Build Back Better bill to put some tax credits, extend those, and that would have lowered the cost of that. There's also been challenges with this whole SPPQ, not knowing what the transmission costs are gonna be, to see if that settles out. And so that project, that RFP, we have not entered into any projects at this point in time. And it may be summer to fall before that happens, probably more like fall, so. And again, we're doing that on behalf of this new load. Our customers will not bear the cost of that, that's being borne by that new customer.
And like you said, this southwestern pool, I mean, it could be somebody on North Dakota supplying that power.
It could be, yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Daniel.
Just a question on, let's see, how do I phrase this question so it makes sense? How connected, I guess, does NPPD get with, developers as far as partnering and helping them move a project forward? Is that something that happens, doesn't happen, or can you speak to that at all?
Yes, so, things have changed. Back before we joined SPP, we did our own transmission studies, and so, 12, 15 years ago, our board directed our department to go out and look for potential sites for wind. And so at that point, we could go to our transmission department and say, where would be some good sites for transmission? We looked for good environmental sites and then good wind sites. And so we went out and did that. Today, that study is done by SPP. So developers for many years came to us and said, where do you have transmission? And our response is, go put in your request at SPP. We don't know, we can't tell you.
Sure.
And so, in general, there is, I would say, no cooperation, other than what we publicly say when we're planning to do something. So there are so many different developers out there, you have to be very careful not to give preference to any
Sure.
one of them.
Right, yep. And then just to follow that up, it's our understanding that like private developers wouldn't have an eminent domain capability. If a project moved forward, would NPPD, is that something that they could partner with them to, and allow them to use like NPPD's eminent domain to finish out a project if they need extra?
That's an excellent question. So typically, there's a project and it may be a half mile to the transmission sub, or it may be 20 miles to the transmission sub. And that is called an generation interconnection line, and that is up to the developer to get his own easements. We do not do that.
Sure.
Now, what can happen is when they build that, if they turn that transmission line over to NPPD once it's complete, then we will maintain it. So they
Okay.
built and paid for it,
Yep.
but then we will operate it. And part of us operating it is we need to have the easements, okay,
Sure.
because it'll be then ours. And so when that landowner goes out, or that developer goes out, he may present his easement to start with, and he'll also have NPPDs there, because ultimately it's gonna be an NPPD. But sometimes there's confusion that this is an NPPD, they have eminent domain. No.
Right.
No, we do not, that is the developer
Yep.
stating that we're doing this initially, we're gonna build that line to NPPD specs, and then it will be turned over to NPPD, and then they'll have that arrangement to
Right.
maintain it.
Sure, perfect, thank you.
Go ahead.
Do you know, do the rural electrics, do they have eminent domain authority? Like
I believe,
perennials
for
and
certain
Norris
provisions, I
and-
know if it was to tie in a wind or solar renewable, I don't believe they do if it's privately owned, but for their own purposes to serve load, I believe they do, but I'm, not an expert in that, but I would think they would need to serve load to be able to.
Okay, thank you.
Are we all
Oh, we're happy.
good? Okay, just a little background on David too. He grew up just north of Bradshaw. He is somewhat of a hometown boy, you'd say. He was sharing a picture with us here before. So And I believe his mom's still on the farm.
Yep, she's still
Out
on
there,
the farm.
north of Bradshaw. So, David, thank you. I don't know if anybody from the public would have any questions, but if they do, I mean, if you would have
Yeah.
outside, you could answer those questions, that would be great. Thank you again, Dave, for stopping and sharing that information with us
Thank
today.
you for inviting me.
Okay, next up, we have discussed an act on changes made to Appendix H of the Emergency Action Plan Review and Sign.
Mr. Chairman, the only place that I see where we might need a change on there is on page 43 under the contact information. Incident Command, County Commissioner Chairman, you're listed and I'm listed as your backup. I feel like your Vice Chairman should probably be your backup
Okay,
since he's probably gonna be here another 4 years. So, wouldn't approve.
Probably.
So I would go ahead and make a motion to approve the emergency action plan, and authorize the chairman to sign up with that change.
thank you, Kurt.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Holgren.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Helmsberg.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, the next up is Ms. Hughes, that is running for District 24 candidate, and have a seat. And she asked if she could come and introduce herself to the board. I made it as an agenda item in case the board had any questions or would like to visit with her a little bit. So name and address, please.
Jana Hughes, 1825 Deer Run Drive, Seward, Nebraska. So thank you. I reached out to Mr. Overmeyer to see if I could stop by and just introduce myself. I am Jana Hughes. I'm running for the Legislative District 24 spot that it will be vacated by Senator Mark Holterman because he is termed out. And I'm just in the process of, I tell everybody my strategy with all of this is to develop relationships. So it's developing relationships with the people in the district because I want to represent our people in the districts. And I know I don't have the knowledge of everything that might come by that desk on legislation because, you know, there's 700 bills introduced every term, which is insane to me. But I want to have those relationships made so I can reach out to people in our district and get their thoughts on how does this affect you, how does this affect your business, how does it affect the county, and then take that back. And then the other side of that is I am only one of 49 votes, and I need to develop those relationships with other senators that are in the legislature so that we can work cooperatively to get good bills passed to support our district and then, of course, our state. So, do you want just a little history on me? Like, I don't know.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So I grew up on a farm, a dairy farm near Goner, Nebraska. My brother is now currently 4th generation farmer of Luby Farms. I always say you can't throw a dead cat in Seward County without hitting a Luby. There's a lot of us. We're kind of the Goner Utica Lubys, but they were all I graduated, I went K through 6 at the Goner Little School. It was a center to Seward, and then graduated Seward High. I then promptly told my parents I would not ever live in, I said never, would live in Nebraska again, which has clearly worked out well. And I went down to school at Texas A&M University, and that is the good Texas school, not the TU Texas school, but the good one. I'm an Aggie. I received an engineering degree from there. And then I took a job out of Atlanta, Georgia for a consulting firm, and we designed distribution centers and logistics systems for the retail industry. So we got to live where the projects were, so I lived in Virginia, Minnesota, Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta for a while, down in Texas, lived all over. And then when I got married, we moved back to Nebraska, lived with my husband, obviously, and then I flew out for my job. Still consulting. I married John Hughes, who is 3rd generation owner of Hughes Brothers Manufacturing, if you're familiar with the manufacturing facility in Seward, which ties into your discussion before about power. So Hughes Brothers makes framing for the electrical lines. So they do the transmission of the power that we were talking about, you guys were talking about earlier. Once we got married, like I said, I traveled out. We live in Seward now. We have 3 children. When I had my oldest, I was not going to be gone Sunday to Friday, so I became my most important job of being a mom, and volunteered a lot, very active in the community, very community-minded. Like I said before, John's family has been there for 3 generations. They just celebrated their 100-year anniversary last year. Hughes Brothers Manufacturing did. And I am currently on the Seward School Board. And I always get asked, why am I doing this? And what happened is maybe a little less than a year ago, our superintendent of schools at Seward called me, which then made me nervous because, you know, when you get a call from a superintendent and you're on a school board, you're like, oh my God, what happened? what happened that was bad? And he said, Jana, I think you should consider running for Mark Holterman's spot because he's termed out and I think you would do a good job. You listen, you know, just established in the community. So my husband and I talked about it. We went down to visit Mark at the Capitol just to get more information. I talked to several other senators and kind of came to the conclusion, John and I did, that maybe it should be people that don't want to be there that should be there representing our district and our state. And I did not go on that 4th grade field trip of the Capitol and say, you know what, someday I want to work here. That did not go through my head. But I just really feel that people that have been here a long time and will do the best for our district. I have the rural background. I understand economics with small businesses and manufacturing, how important it is to keep people here. And with being on the school board, education is a big plus for Nebraska. And if we haven't learned anything this last 2 years, we're in a really good state to live in during all this COVID mess. We've kept our kids in school, we kept our economies growing, and we just need to stay that course. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So I just wanted to introduce myself to you. I appreciate you guys having me. But I want to be, when I get in office, because I'm going to think positively, I just want to know that it's an open communication and I intend to have those relationships made and be available when needed, when things need to be discussed. So, do you guys have questions for me?
I guess I'll start off. Obviously, Mr. Calderman has been our senator for 8 years,
Yes.
or finishing his 8th year.
Finishing his 8th year.
Prior to that was Mr. Adams, that
Right.
was our mayor and,
Yep.
and ended up being the speaker. And through his tenure, we in York County, and I believe the other counties were used to him doing luncheons and stuff like that. And I know COVID came along, but I think it disappeared even before COVID came along. Are you planning on trying to do any of that to, you know, and I know he's got an open door, but
Yeah.
it's open, come to me, and of course, we like people to come to us too.
Right.
And so are you planning on, you know,
So-
reinstating any of that
Sure.
to do that?
Right now, I'm just busy with the campaigning thing, but to that point, yes, I've been thinking about what I can do to stay connected. And of course, you can write the articles that are in the local papers. You'll update the website on the legislative page. But some things that I'm thinking about doing, I was able to have breakfast the other morning. It was actually with Farm Bureau, but at the McCool Junction Breakfast Place. Tom, is it Coffee owns that? I don't know if you're familiar with it
right.
at all. But I think it's a kind of a haven for the farmers. So, like, this is what I'm kind of thinking. I want to have, like, maybe, you know, the second Tuesday of the month, I'll be there at 6 a.m., you know, just if people want to come and talk. I would love to set something like that up in York. I don't know if I want to be as formal as a town hall, but if I could say, like today, actually, I sent an email to the members of the chamber. I'm going to be at Captain Redbeard's today, 10 to 11:30. So maybe if I could have some things like that, where it's like, you know, Jana's going to be at this place from, you know, whatever day of the month. I think something like that would work well, and then people can stop in and out with concern. So yes, I would like to enact something. Maybe I don't have the, you know, I don't know what it is going to be exactly, but I
Right.
want to be accessible. And I realize, I mean, you know, oh, Seward, I'm already living there, so that kind of, right, is a draw for, oh, the Seward people want a Seward person, the York people want a York person. I understand that, but I grew up in between, so yeah, I aim to be accessible, and including Fulton County, because I feel like I've been doing a lot of meet and greets. I've been to the small towns. I was one at Henderson. I've done in the Stromsburg, Utica, Waco. I'm really trying to get out and reach people And I got that sense in Polk that they feel kind of like the left behind county, if you will. And so I do want to encourage some of that. And I agree with you, this last 2 years with COVID probably put a damper on everything, but we're past that now.
Let's
We're-
hope.
We're moving forward, so, yeah.
Anybody have any other questions, Janet, this morning? I guess that's it.
Okay.
That's pretty easy.
Well, if you want, I will be at Captain Redbeard.
You sure?
Just right
I don't
over
know if we'll be
there.
done by 10 o'clock.
You won't, sure, come on.
Yeah. That's the way
35
it's.
minutes, but I'll be there from 10 to 11:30,
Okay.
so, you know.
This is a long session.
Oh, this is a long session?
Yeah.
Well, I am sorry about that, and I will go have a cup of coffee for you.
Okay, thanks for stopping this morning.
Anyway, thanks for having me, I
You bet.
appreciate it.
You bet.
Anybody here?
Next up, discuss and act on the Board of Adjustments nominations. This is the one thing that was brought to light through the zoning that we're getting ready to go. We had recognized that the Board of Adjustments had all termed out. And so Daniel does have a list there. Some were one or two had moved away. It's a 5-member board with 1 alternate. So go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, so, Mr. Selby, the zoning administrator, is in court this morning, so he dropped off a letter for nominations for the Board of Adjustment. So we've got 5 names that we will put forth as on the Board of Adjustments for a 3-year term. Those individuals being Kim Regier, Gary Eberly, Jason Perdue, Max Moore, and Charlie Hoffman. And so I would make a motion to approve the appointment of these individuals for a 3-year term. We want to start that
I suppose March
March
1st.
1st.
Yeah.
of 2022, running through March 1st of 2025.
And we need to find one more to serve as an alternate in that capacity. You know, so we're continuing to look for that. Hopefully we'll have that by the next meeting.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Any other questions regarding this?
Just to clarify, all these individuals live in York County's zoning jurisdiction. They don't live in the zoning jurisdiction or extraterritorial jurisdiction in Village or City. Okay.
I believe so.
I think it's important.
Do you
that
know all the names?
Most of them, yeah. I think it's important that they live in our zoning jurisdiction if they're gonna be on the Board of Adjustment, so.
Mr. Regier and Mr. Eberly live north and west of town. Mr. Moore is up just north of Gresham. And Charlie, of course, is down close to you, south of the Double Nickel campgrounds. And Jason is east of town, almost to Road S, I believe. So, okay. Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Walmsberg,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Holgren,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. And then if anybody has somebody, you know, just, if you want to reach out to them, you know, I mean, like I say, it serves as an alternate. Obviously, it's not very, we don't, you know, they ask what's our job, well, it doesn't really have to do much, but we still need you, you know, so, yeah. Pass the name forward. If you don't want to reach out, we sure will. Okay, next up, the next item was actually put on there by Joe Seldy, and then obviously he wasn't able to make it this morning, so I really don't have anything involved in this. This is an agreement that's going to be due in June. We'd signed it in 19. It run through 2022, June of 2022. We do have members from the state coming to see us at the second meeting in April to discuss like the criteria of problem-solving court and what is, you know, what the state puts out for rules and stuff like that. So I don't know if anybody has any other, I know that there was just a graduation. I believe Sheriff Ripka attended the graduation just maybe a week ago or so of a candidate that went through it. So it is something that goes on. If anybody else have any other?
You say Mr. Selby's in court?
whether they're in court or whether there's jury selections, there's something going on upstairs that he was not able to.
So, but it's in York County?
Yes, as far as I know.
He was
Just
here.
curious. Got a county attorney and a deputy and no one's here, so just wondering where they're at. Making sure the people of York County are being served, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kurt.
Mhm.
Okay, so next up is, I believe Nick will, sorry, Nick.
No, you're
We do
fine.
have board equalization. I thought, last time I looked
Oh, you
up, it
wanna
was
do that?
9:35. Yeah,
I'm fine.
it is 9:30. Okay. We will recess as the Board of Commissioners and shift gears to the Board of Equalization. Roll call, please. Thank you, Kelly, by the way.
Gross.
Present.
Bogren.
Present.
Osberg.
Present.
Sykes.
President,
And Obermeyer.
Present. Open meetings law is posted on the south side of our chambers, outside our chambers on the wall, and is also on our website. Proof of publication was March 17th in the News Time, also on our website. Review and approve the minutes of the March 8th, 2022 Board of Equalization meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes of the Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 Board of Equalization meeting.
Thank you, Kurt.
second.
Thank you, Jack. Any discussion? Roll call?
Bogren.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes,
Osberg.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Adopt today's agenda, please.
So move, Mr. Chairman, without any amendments.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Roll call, please.
Osberger.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Bogren.
Yes.
Sykes.
yes,
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, in front of us is an application for exemption of a motor vehicle. It is by York College. It is a 2016 Ford F-350. Transport of employees and students for athletic events and other educational activities. County Treasurer Brenda Scavo has marked it for approval.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick, this is probably not relevant, but just want to make sure that the paperwork's correct. Is Steve Ekman still the president? I believe that has changed.
This is not signed by, this is a
It-
Todd Sheldon that
Correct.
signed it. Where did you see?
On the, up
Oh, I
underneath,
see up top.
It's president, vice president, it lists Steve. Like I said, I don't know that if that matters,
I don't know that that's,
but
I know he was staying on to help, so I don't, I
Okay.
mean, I don't know the answer to that one.
very good.
They filled out the paperwork,
Right,
so I'm
yeah.
guessing he's still employed.
Is this a replacement or addition to?
Does not say.
Quite a few of them.
Does not say.
It's irrelevant.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the recommendation of the county treasurer and approve the application for exemption from York College for the 2016 Ford F-350.
Thank you, Kurt.
second.
Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Bogren.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes,
Osberg.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay. That takes us to the end of that short meeting. We adjourn. We will go back and Board of Commissioners, we got Nick all excited and then had to make him sit down.
he needs the exercise.
So, Nick, I know that you had put this on there as discuss and act. I didn't know that we really had anything to act on, so I thought it'd be best for you just to tell us what you wanted and then we'll go from there.
Yep, so I think I've talked to a good majority of you guys in the past, and I've, worked with Paul here about that. Currently, our office owns, mainly leased through Paul, is a 2009 Dodge Charger. It currently sits a little above 150,000 miles on it. This past month and a half or so, we've kind of had some maintenance issues with it. We're gonna need to be looking at tires, this and that. It sits pretty low to the ground. I feel like we've exceeded our life limit on it. I got a quote to fix it for about $1,000, right under $1,000. We decided not to do anything right now. We told the people that are driving it not to get too excited about taking it on long distance trips or the interstate, just for safety that way. But so I looked into some other options. I got some quotes from a couple places, Erd Camp Motors, Jansen Ford. I asked for discuss and act. The only reason why I asked for act on that was to, basically, I would like kind of your approval, your guys' approval to proceed, if possible, of looking at avenues to purchase a new vehicle. Obviously, this vehicle we currently are sharing with another office here and there that use it probably more than we do. I was gonna dig up some numbers of how many rides we actually do roughly a year, but with higher gas prices, we can see more of a uptick on that. We obviously see a lot more in the winter time because people don't wanna drive in Lincoln with weather conditions, and we move forward with caution on that. If it's a bad day or icy, you know, we will see if we can reschedule those appointments or whatnot for better days. But then our veterans aren't getting any younger though either, and the busyness of Lincoln and Omaha, they get a little nervous as well. Long trips, so we do have 5 roughly volunteer drivers that volunteer to drive for us. And it is a service that I think we're obligated to have for our veterans. So I'd like to, you know, treat them with a little bit decent. Obviously, you can't find a new vehicle really right now if you drive around that current lots. I mean, I think you can see that out on the interstate. So I did do a couple different ones. But I guess I'm just really here to see if we can, if you guys grant me permission to move forward along those lines and to do that. And if you have any questions.
What are you looking at?
A minivan. And I think
Minivan,
a
be more
minivan-
accessible?
Yeah, I think a minivan meets our needs. It sits up a little bit higher. I think the bang for our buck is in a minivan. I mean, I would take a new Tahoe, but I don't think it financially, cost effectively is there.
Would is this something be outfitted like wheelchair accessible?
No, because our drivers aren't exactly, they're not trained. I'm not saying that they're not willing to or whatnot, but they're not trained for like first aid, medical, EMS, stuff like that. And they're not there to be the caregiver. We can offer to give the caregiver a ride, so the minivan's gonna give us easeability in and out, a little bit more room to haul, like if they have a wheelchair or something like that. But nothing, like if they're wheelchair bound, there's other services out there that we could utilize and they pay for, like the handy bus.
Like aging services?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that will give them that right.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Would the Veterans Administration come out and pick somebody up and take them to an appointment if they had mobility issues?
So currently, they didn't do it during the last 2 years, obviously.
Sure.
But DAV has one that comes out, and that's, the problem with that is DAV in Lincoln doesn't really like to leave Lincoln. You use Grand Island, but if their appointment's in Lincoln, DAV from Grand Island doesn't, that's where we kind of run into. There is also the VA bus that stops in York, and we have to pre-schedule and get on that. But they're not handicap accessible either. So, but they meet at Petro, they pick up at Petro. So, and we do use that service quite a bit as well.
And this vehicle wouldn't be just for the veterans?
No, like currently.
ESO office, it would be for, you know, anyone, if, like, say, the clerks had a election commissioner conference to go to, they could take that.
In the past, we've let other offices, like Cal had a meeting way out west, well, years ago now, I guess, it feels years ago. So he took our vehicle, and I told him, I said, make sure your credit card works, because by the time you get out there, you're gonna need gas. She like, that car likes to use its gas. So, but yeah, we'll loan it out, and obviously there'll be rules and kind of a procedure in place for that, to do that, like a checkout of, kind of like Seward County kind of runs, they have and Chevy Impalas that the employees can use and check out for their public transportation.
Go ahead, Bill.
Chairman, Jack and I both serve on the Veteran Service Advisory Board. We talked about this the last couple of meetings, and we have that Veterans Aid Fund that we capped at $30,000. We spent some out here for the memorial, and I think Nick said you would stick 2 or so back into the budget, try and build that up. So that would bring us probably back to 22,000. And I don't think we have to take it all out of there. I mean, we could probably budget some, but that money would be available out of that fund to help purchase another vehicle. And I think we also indicated that this probably wouldn't happen this budget year.
Right,
You know,
right,
so
right.
we'd be looking July 1 or in
Correct,
that area.
correct. Yeah, if we wanna,
Give us, you
yeah,
know,
if we would like to budget it into a budget item or not, like, I don't have that obviously in a budget line item, but if we want to, and that Veterans Aid Fund, I wanna stress the caution of using that fund. Yes, we have that fund there, but, you know, we have inclement weather and coming up here, you know, we're gonna be hitting tornado season. One tornado season, we could drain that account if it hits a town or whatnot. I mean, you look at Cordova, Beaver Crossing and everything. Seward County went through their Veterans Aid Fund quite a bit, and I don't, yes, we have that money in there and everything, but, I mean, and this would be, I think, a worthy cause to use that for, but I don't wanna
we use
deplete
it all.
it, you're right.
We could use a portion of it.
Right, yeah, I just don't wanna make it so low that then
Right.
we're asking for more than that 2,000, you know, right now we budget for 2,000 every year to replenish it, and then obviously if once we get up there, we don't do that, but.
I just want, I've been here 12 years just about, and we want, and not knocking the sheriff's department, but we get all the cast-offs, you know, that go out and park out at the roads department or something like that. And they got rid of them because they were probably having some problems with them. So we constantly have to stick money into these vehicles to keep them operating, so maybe we ought to look at some other avenue.
Are you looking into, for instance, new versus used? I know there
So-
is new options out there, you just gotta be a little patient.
Correct.
And in reality, new is, you know, hasn't taken the price increase that the uses went through the roof. you know,
True.
so-
And currently, when I talk to Erdkamps and Jansen Ford and all that stuff, and they, you know, they're limited on that, but they would be willing to, I mean, I guess that's really what I'm after is do we enter into like an agreement where we go down those avenues? But I'm more asking for your blessing to pursue and then fill it out. Like I got used here because that's what they gave me. I mean, if we want to go new, I'm sure I could get more information on them and go.
I guess what I'd like to see is the comparison.
Yep.
And then I'd also like to see, you know, just for information, how much it's being, you know, used and that, you know, I know that it's being used by the assessor. I thought maybe that was all it was being used by, was the assessor, to do that.
It's
And then housing it, you know, if we do go new, I know that right now, you know, you're parked behind us over in the parking lot. I mean, do we have,
So I did, you know, I used to have a garage back here, and then Cal used it, and I've talked to Cal about getting that garage back and reusing that area and everything. So we're working on those.
Okay.
That has been talked about and discussed between us of working together and having that relationship, which is there. To give you some comparison, I did a 2017, 18, 19, and a 20. Different vehicles, Chrysler Pacifica to Grand Dodge Caravans. Different ranges on mileage, 85,000 is the most mileage on this, down to 50,000 miles on them. And they range from 24,000 roughly to 34,000 on dollar amounts is what they get, so.
okay.
on there.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about years on the board, when I first got on the board, there was the old Dodge Durango that used to belong to the sheriff's office that we would use, and, man, if we're gonna be transporting constituents down the road, I think we need to have something that's dependable, that we're confident we'll get from point A to point B and back again. Just like, you know, Bill said, the sheriff's office, you use your resources their whole lifetime, which you should, and I know you guys are good about that, so, like Bill said, by the time they're done with it, you know, it's probably shouldn't be used for any other purposes really for the county anymore, so I kinda look at it a liability issue too, so.
After attending that meeting last week out in Kearney, you know, the ARPA funds, we're really not restricted because we're under the 10 million. I don't see why we couldn't use some out of the ARPA funds for that. It's been included in the next budget.
For budget out of general, I don't think it should come out, if it's gonna be a multi-use vehicle, not just for the VSO, for the whole county, then I don't know if the VSO's office should be bearing the burden of that. Probably should be something, I like the ARPA idea, there's the inheritance fund. Don't want to dip out of that too much, too often, but it's there, so there's a healthy balance, so. But yeah, it's 2022, I think we should probably get with the times and get a dependable vehicle.
Daniel?
You mentioned some volunteers. When it is used to transport veterans or whatnot, it's always one of our volunteers that's driving, or do we rent it out or lease it out to?
No, so, actually, the volunteers I have are, and Jack used to volunteer, I'm sure he would volunteer again, I don't wanna.
Speak for him.
No, I don't want, yeah, speak for him here, but, used to drive for us there. But most of them are veterans that like to do it.
Sure.
And it's giving back to the community in an aspect. The reason why, and I support this, and the assessor uses it because, like, if there was an accident or something that happened to one of the employees, if they're in their personal car, they can
Sure.
say they clocked out and they're not on the clock, you know. This way that we're kind of held accountable and
Right,
more,
right, yep,
so, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go, perfect.
right, yep. I was just wondering if we had, just let private,
Yep. No,
veterans take it, but I think
yeah, they are, but in our handbook, there is a paragraph in our handbook that covers how we can do
Sure.
that and that
Yep.
stuff, so
Very
that's
good.
why we use that.
Yep, and then, you mentioned, do we share this vehicle with another county?
Nope.
Okay, so it's just with our
Yep, so,
VSO?
like Fillmore County, I got that
Yep.
interlocal agreement with
Right.
Fillmore County and everything. We have our own,
Okay.
we just bought 2018, back in 2018, we
Sure.
bought a car, so,
Very good.
for veteran services. And that's why I was kind of going along the minivan too,
Mhm.
watching what worked down there with them, with the
Mhm.
minivan and how it works and
Sure.
the easeability and I mean, if you go sit in that car, and I mean, Paul probably can tell you too, I mean, with all his stuff on, belts and everything and vests and everything, it's hard getting in and out of that, so.
Sure.
And, doesn't get easier with getting older. I mean, I can feel it, so.
I guess what I'd like to see is come back with some prices.
Okay.
Get those, so we have those before the meeting, and I'd like
Yeah.
to see new too, I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
I think the other thing after hearing the volunteers driving, we probably need to check with NERMA. I mean, when we have non-county employees driving a county vehicle, where does NERMA stands on that?
I couldn't tell you what NERMA has, I can tell you what our handbook states, that they are covered under our insurance, and basically they become a temporary employee without being paid.
So I don't know if they would like a list. I think we need to check into that too. Probably just, regardless what vehicle we
Right,
have,
yep.
it's probably a good idea.
Well,
We
when
need
I
to have
used to
something.
transport people to Lincoln or wherever, I used my own car and I used my own insurance, so it wasn't a big deal.
But we do,
Well,
like, in that situation, we do offer like,
Paid mileage.
mileage,
Reimbursement,
mileage,
yeah.
Your insurance company might have an issue with that though, if you're,
I talked to them, they did.
okay, good.
I
So
just
that's the
think-
first thing I did.
Right. I'd just like to see what ours has to say about it,
Yeah.
just to make sure the bases are
Yep.
covered. So you'll get that and get that information to us?
Yeah, I will work
Okay.
with Kelly on. the
And then
insurance
time frames
NERMA.
on new or used or what's available, I mean,
So, yeah, used, Jansen was the one I got most of these quotes for, because they just had the inventory and the locations throughout the state.
Right.
So, it was more of basically coming up with a purchase agreement and then taking the next steps, is what he wanted really
Okay.
more than anything. Now, as far as getting a new price, I mean, I guess if you're giving me the permission to pursue the new prices, everything, because I don't want to give them false hope of lead them along and then cut it out from underneath them. But I mean, they probably know.
price and vehicles.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
And we got 3.5 months till this fiscal year's over before we even,
Well, I mean,
then
obviously, if
before-
we're talking about other monies to budget it, that money's budgeted.
Okay.
If we were serious about inheritance or serious about ARPA money, that money has been received and budgeted and we could spend.
Okay.
So for instance, he comes back with something brand new that they had on the lot, was a good deal, we could make that happen pretty rapidly.
Perfect. Yeah. Like I said, I'll get with Kelly on the insurance and their.
Yeah. And then I think that we have to decide the mindset, is this, like I say, is this a county-wide vehicle, is this VSO vehicle, something like that, so.
Just a couple quick questions. When you were pricing, were you trading this one in or
So
selling it? or-
actually, we don't own that, that is
Okay,
Paul's.
okay,
So
very
that
good.
would go back to Paul.
Okay.
Not to dump it on Paul, but it's his thing, so
Okay,
he gets to
yeah.
choose what he wants to do with it. Sorry,
Very good.
Paul.
Very good.
So, yeah, that is, we've always looked at it and it's leased from the sheriff's department. The sheriff, actually, I believe is it still in your inventory?
Yeah.
So it
Okay.
is really his car.
Yep, very good. And then, where does this fall as far as competitive bid? Are we under the threshold? We don't have to do a bid process on, like, I'm thinking like if we went
Under
new.
50.
Okay.
Yeah, you wanna buy a $50,000 car, huh? You want a Tesla?
There you go. Hey, all right.
Supposedly, it was a good place to ramp them in.
Well, you wouldn't have to use
California.
gas,
That long cord.
take a long extension cord.
Very good, thanks.
Good, everybody?
Good.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Are you time constrained?
Me?
You, meaning do you gotta get back upstairs?
Not right now.
You're okay?
I'm okay.
All right. All right, discuss an act on adopting a resolution for county tax sales certificate. We have a letter here. Do we have two letters?
That's the resolution, that's just for your information.
Okay, I, Brenda Scavo, York County Treasurer, do hereby certify that on March 7th, 2022, all delinquent real estate and special assessments in York County were offered for sale to the public. Said sale continued from day to day until all delinquent real estate and special assessments had been offered for sale. We offered 98 delinquent parcels for a total of $68,099.71. We sold 37 parcels for a total of $52,294.27. Respectfully submitted, Brenda Scavo, York County Treasurer. And so this is, and Brenda obviously was not able to attend today. The attached list shows the real estate parcels that are delinquent, and I believe everybody, that was emailed to everybody. Remaining for the 2019 taxes that were put up for tax sale on March 1st. It is time for the issuance of the county tax sale certificates in accordance with state statutes. Please provide me with a resolution allowing me to proceed with the issuance of these certificates. So, anybody have any questions that we may or may not be able to answer? We need a resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to adopt the resolution for adopting the resolution for the county tax sales certificate as presented.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Baumsberger,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Overend,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
and Overman.
Yes. Okay, I asked this to be put on there. While I was in a meeting last week, our emergency manager had texted me and said, hey, we're getting the area that is for our tornado shelter pretty filled up downstairs. I did look up on state statute, once we deem, and provided that to the clerk, once we deem something surplus, then we could, to dispense that surplus, because obviously items happen, and I can't remember. Commissioner Buller was involved with it the last time, so it's been a couple years ago since we've done that. So I guess what I'm looking for is if there's somebody that'd like to volunteer to take this project on, that we get moving on it and then we do it again. Or somebody have any ideas?
And this is where we typically either have a silent auction or
Sealed
dispose
bid.
of.
Yeah.
If it's not in good shape, then we just usually throw it away.
Right.
But
We have to deem it, this board has to deem a list, we'd have to have the list that's deemed surplus, and then we could take it from there.
I think what was left after the silent auction, Blue Valley did take some of it,
okay.
and some of it was bad enough, it was just trash.
Okay.
Did we get a lot of revenue off the silent auction the last time.
No, it's always less than $50 or.
So is it worth even doing a silent auction? Could we just say, Blue Valley, come down, take what you want, and then otherwise dispose of the rest of it? Instead of having someone spend 4 hours down there trying to make $50
We
for,
can do whatever we want. First off, we have to have, I believe we have to have an inventory, and we have to deem it surplus. So that's the first step.
let's get that, and I'm all for just, you know, if Blue Valley or any charitable organization wants to come in, comb through it, what we feel like that should be combed through. Some of the computer stuff I know we need to probably be a little careful about. But other than that, you know, let's give them half a day to do that, and then we'll just throw away the rest of it, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
We've had it like from 9 in the morning till 1. You sit there, twiddle your thumbs, nobody shows up.
Yeah.
That's why there's not a bunch of volunteers jumping forward to do this.
Josh usually takes the hard drive out of all the old computers, I believe.
We'd want to check with him again.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
Okay. All right.
Let's get the surplus list then.
Okay. I guess I'm not hearing anybody that wants to volunteer to do that. I guess at that rate, I might see if Nick has somebody that could do that for us in corrections.
Do what?
Do the
Make the
surplus,
list.
get the list
Well-
inventory.
Kelly,
Well,
everyone
Do we
should
have that?
list in their
We
office,
should have
right?
a
Yeah,
list.
we have an inventory surplus.
But do we know that it's down there?
Well, that would be, Cal would probably know that.
So-
I can give him the inventory list of surplus, and I think he's been keeping
Okay.
pretty good tabs on that.
So
But
like-
people still
I
go
s-
down there and take stuff
I
and,
think it needs to be checked to
Yeah.
make sure.
Like, 'cause like Nick, for example, he takes something downstairs, does he let you know, or does he just keep track of that internally, and then once a year when we update our surplus, that's when it's
he lets
recorded?
Cal know there's papers down there that everybody supposedly is supposed to fill out.
Okay,
So if they do it correctly, then yes. But then we know when somebody brings down new stuff down there, that goes in a whole different room.
okay.
So what we have on inventory surplus as of last June, that's what can be sold.
Okay.
So we can ask Cal or whoever you would like to check off to make sure what's correct.
Okay. Okay, we'll move forward with that. Next up is discuss and review the draft financial statements. Those statements, we were hopeful that they was gonna be completed. They are not. There was a few pieces of that puzzle still missing as of yesterday. Bill, myself, and Kelly met with Jill on a Zoom meeting for a couple hours. So those will be filed. I mean, it's not like anything, it's an audit. It's not like anything we can change. It is what it is. Those will be filed the 31st. And then, by then, those last few pieces, in fact, Sheriff's Office had provided one as we was in the meeting yesterday, so they should be getting compiled the rest of this week. We're gonna do a meeting again next Monday, and then she will do the filing, and then we'll have that on. So I'm looking for a postponement on this till the April 5th meeting.
Move to postpone action on the financial statements to the April 5th meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion regarding that? Roll call, please.
Brooks,
Yes.
Holgren,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, we got 2 items left. We got committee reports, and we've got an executive session that we need to do for general assistance. I think committee reports are gonna take a while because we've got quite a bit to talk about. So let's go ahead and do the general assistance, and we will go into executive session at 9:58. And
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we go into executive session at 9:59 to discuss general assistance and to prevent needless injury to an individual.
and we will be joined
We will be
by,
joined by Dina Bushnell,
thank you.
the General
Second.
Assistance Administrator.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Holgren,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes, and if anybody is watching on the owl, we need to shut the owl down, and we will restart it when we come back into regular meeting.
Owl. It's an owl.